presentation on how to complete the 2012-2013 FAFSA. So thank you again for joining us. During this session, it will be just the presentation, and then starting at 2 o'clock through 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time is when we'll have financial aid officers available in the chat room to answer your questions about financial aid and financial aid at UC Davis, the FAFSA, or any other questions you might have. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, this introduction, an Aggie's Guide to the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA. Application is available beginning January 1st. Okay, so the place that you want to visit in order to complete the FAFSA is FAFSA on the web website, and the link is www.fafsa.gov, and the link is also available at this booth as well, so you should be able to link to that directly. So before you complete your FAFSA, you want to go ahead and create a personal identification number, a PIN number, and this will act as your electronic signature to complete the FAFSA. So the site you want to go ahead to electronically apply for financial aid through the FAFSA website. It lets you check on the status of your FAFSA application. You'll also use your PIN number if you're applying for federal loans. It's something that you want to go ahead and keep private. So once you've created the number, it's going to be a 4-digit number. You want to go ahead and keep that written down somewhere. And also what's nice about the PIN number is that you're offered the option to create a PIN number on the spot. So you don't have to, you can request to have it mailed or emailed to you, or you can request to have that phone number PIN number generated on the spot so you can complete your FAFSA, start the application and complete it at the same time. Something that the PIN number does is that it matches up with your Social Security number with the Social Security Administration. So even though you're creating it on the spot, they do go through, FAFSA goes through and does a check to match up your Social Security number with your PIN number. So that's your first step, is getting that PIN number. A few other things you'll need going into filing the FAFSA. The first, we talked about the PIN number, your Social Security number. Also, you may want to get a hold of your Social Security card, because you want to make sure that your name that's on your Social Security card matches your Social Security number and the ones that you list on the FAFSA. A couple of other things, if you have a driver's license, you want to go ahead and get a hold of that. If you don't, that's okay. Going into filling out your income information, if you filed taxes in 2011, you want to go ahead going in and then go back and correct your information after the fact to make sure you turn in your application by the March 2nd priority deadline. If you worked and you didn't make enough to file a tax return, then you would want to go ahead and get your 2011 W-2, which employers should have issued to you by this time, or at least by the start of February. A couple of other things, bank statements. The FAFSA is going to ask you for information, asset information as of the time you filed your FAFSA. So your current bank statement, and then any investments and account statements that you may have. So that's going over what you'll need. And then that's pretty much mirrored for a parent as well. If you're a dependent based on your FAFSA, one parent to electronically sign the FAFSA. Also, their Social Security number, and making sure that their Social Security number and the name you put on the FAFSA matches. A copy of your parents' 2011 federal income tax returns if they've already filed. a copy of their 2011 W-2s, any untaxed income information, and we'll talk a bit about that later when we get to that section of the FAFSA. Also, bank statements and investment account statements as of today. So those are information that you want to have when you're going in to file your FAFSA. Something else as well, making sure you complete all necessary fields. The FAFSA, as you go along, will let you skip certain sections depending if the question's applicable to you, but there's certain points where you are required to fill in certain information. Okay, so moving into the actual application. If you are a continuing student or you've already filed your FAFSA from a prior year, when you go to log into the FAFSA, they'll give you the option of doing a FAFSA renewal. For the FAFSA renewal, you can select this and it will automatically fill in information from past years, which definitely cuts down on that processing time for you filling out the application. Along with filling out that information, you can go ahead and make any changes that are applicable, such as a change in income, change of address, different things that you want to be updated on your FAFSA. This information can definitely change from year to year. A big thing that we want to emphasize is March 2nd is the eligibility. You want to make sure you have a completed FAFSA on file by March 2nd. Okay, so kind of going in, as at this point, you might not have your taxes completed. So you can use estimates. A way you can use estimates is by looking at prior year tax returns. If there is a drastic difference in information, you might not want to use those prior tax returns as an estimate. However, that is one option. Also, you can use your W-2s to update the information going into filing the FAFSA. Something that we'll be talking about as well is we suggest that you use the IRS Data Retrieval tool, and that allows for the FAFSA to pull in the most up-to-date tax information that's been filed. Okay, so a few tips. Some common questions that do come up. If you're a dependent student, based on the FAFSA, if your parents are divorced or separated, you want to enter the information for the parent with whom you've lived the past 12 months. And that's the parent's information you want to use when you do complete the FAFSA. If your parents are separated and the parent's information you're entering, that parent's remarried, you have to include that step-parent's information. Another tip going along with the March 2nd, you say don't wait, apply early. So you want to make sure you do meet that March 2nd deadline. Going back to the IRS Data Retrieval tool, it does allow you to pull in your tax information, which simplifies, you won't have to go through all of your taxes to enter the information one by one. And I've talked about this a little bit, enter your name exactly as it appears on your Social Security card. And when you enter information, you want to double check the Social Security numbers. If you're a permanent resident, make sure you enter the right alien registration number and dates of birth as well. If there's any mismatching information, that could cause delay in processing your application. And then finally, ask questions. Financial aid at UC Davis, any financial aid office, there are resources out there to help you file the FAFSA. Okay, so gone over some preparing and information that you need to file the FAFSA, so let's go ahead and begin. So the first place you want to visit after you've created your PIN number and you've gathered your information together is the FAFSA website. And again, that link is available in our booth right here. Okay, so let's see, moving on. When you get to your initial login page, you'll be putting in your last name, your full name, your first name as well, your Social Security number, and your date of birth. Now, if you have any questions about answering any of the questions on your FAFSA, on the right-hand corner, as you hover over the questions, there's the Help and Hints section, which really is helpful when you're trying to refer to numbers in your tax returns or how to enter your birth date, if there's going to be dashes, or if you can use capital letters. So there's different helpful hints there that can help with completing the FAFSA. Okay, so let's take a look. So as we mentioned, going in, entering your last name, your first and click on the electronic keyboard that will bring that up on the screen. So if you're concerned about someone looking over your shoulder or privacy in that way, it does act as that extra level of privacy as you're using your mouse to enter your information. Okay, and then creating a password is the next step. So you want to go ahead and generate a password. You can use this if you partially complete your application, and you can save it at any point during the process, and then you can log back in using that password to pick up where you left off on your application. So the next page you'll see is the introduction page, and this will list several questions that may be on your mind going into filing the FAFSA. So I'm just going to go ahead and run through those. How can I get help completing my FAFSA? For completing your FAFSA, there are workshops such as this. There are different workshops, for example, Cash for College in Sacramento, different workshops at high schools. Also, if you wanted to contact any financial aid office, including our own, we can help with questions. Also, and you'll notice this in the booth as well, there's a line-by-line completing your FAFSA, which is an excellent resource. It goes through each question, common questions, where would I find this information? It's a very handy tool. So how many steps does it take to complete the FAFSA? Today we're going to be going through 7 steps to complete the FAFSA. And how long will it take to complete? Well, that can vary. The information officially from FAFSA is if you're doing a renewal, it can take up to 55 minutes, and then if it's your first time, up to 2 hours. However, this really can vary. For this past year, the process is definitely sped up, as it does not include questions. Depending on your answers, it will allow you to questions that aren't applicable. But the 2 hours includes the whole gathering your information and from electronically signing your application at the end. So it really can vary from person to person. Okay, can I save my FAFSA if I can't finish it? Yes, you can, and that's where the password comes in. Documents needed to complete the FAFSA. That's a reminder of the different things that we talked about, information, your social security card, driver's license, bank statements. So that's kind of a good prompt as well. And then signing the FAFSA, and that will be one of the last things we do today. And then FAFSA on the web security and privacy. So there's different information that you can take a look at before you start filing your FAFSA. So we're going to go ahead and move on. Okay, ready for step 1, student demographics. Okay, so let's see. You want to go ahead and put similar to when you logged in, your first name, your last name, your first name, your middle initial. You want to make sure that the information, again, matches what's on your social security card. Your social security number is going to be verified with the Social Security Administration, so you just want to make sure you double check those numbers, there's no misspellings in there. You can always go back and correct it, but it's definitely good to double check that as you go along. It does ask if you're male or female, and if you are male, in order to receive federal aid, if you're at the age of 18 or over, you would have to sign up for Selective Services. If you've already signed up for Selective Services, that's fine. It's possible the school may ask for verification of that. However, if you haven't already and you're as of the age of 18, then you would go ahead and select that you want to have FAFSA through your application, sign you up for Selective Services. Another question on there, it asks for your permanent mailing address. So definitely the address where if they needed to mail you something, you want to go ahead and make sure it's a permanent address there. City, your state, and your zip code. Also, if you haven't lived in California, is tied to your citizenship status. you want to indicate if you're a U.S. citizen or if you're an eligible non-citizen. So if you're a U.S. citizen, you want to go ahead and enter yes. If not, you would put the eligible non-citizen. Applications as well, permanent resident with a form I-551 or I-551C or an I-94. We actually have on our website, if you go to finance, if you don't fall within either category, the application on how familiar with this is the DREAM Act, which effective for next year, actually for scholarships for institutional donated aid, it was effective for winter 2012, and then going into 12-13 allows schools to award state and institutional aid. That option is looking right now, we're preparing for that for the 12-13 year if you're an undocumented student. Now, if you have any questions about the DREAM Act and what that means and how you can receive institutional and state financial aid, what I'd probably suggest doing at this point is on our website at financialaid.ucdavis.edu, we do have a section for undocumented students. So go ahead and check that out. We have different links, FAQ section as well, if you wanted to find out more information. And as more information becomes available and the application becomes available, there will be more information available on our website, and you can definitely check with us as well. Also, just wanted to throw in there as well, if you're an out-of-state student for tuition purposes, that will affect your residency fees at UC Davis, and if you're applying for other schools, it could affect your tuition as well. There is the process AB 540 that you could qualify for in-state tuition, and if you have more questions on that, if you visit the registrar's website at registrar.ucdavis.edu, you can look up information about residency. Okay, so just kind of continuing through the application, if you're kind of going to Selective Services, you want to go ahead and select yes if you want to be registered. Let's see, citizen, okay. There's important questions here on this part of the application that will determine your eligibility for certain financial aid programs. If you have already received your first bachelor's degree, then you wouldn't be eligible for a Pell Grant going into a second baccalaureate program. So it's important that you go through the application and answer those questions. So let's see. Also, if you want to be considered for work study, work study is a fund where you can earn your financial aid through your paycheck and through working. By selecting yes, this doesn't guarantee that you're going to receive work study funds as part of your financial aid package, but as a safe bet, I would go ahead and for the question, students usually answer no to the bachelor question, already having their bachelor's degree. Okay. So moving on to the student eligibility, the high school section. So you want to go ahead and enter the information for the high school you attended. Okay. And if you can't find the high school name, you can search by city and state. So you may want to go ahead and, if depending on the way that the name of your school is entered into the FAFSA system, it might be different than what you call the school, or there might be an official name that they use. So you can look up by state and by city as well. So that should help you fill in that information. Okay, so we've completed step 1, the student demographic information. We're now on to step 2, school selection. So this is how you communicate with the school, your FAFSA information. Okay, so for UC Davis, the federal school code is 001313, which you want to go ahead and definitely enter in if you're interested in UC Davis. Also, you can add or delete schools depending from this page as well. And if you can't find the name of the school, similar to the high school, you can name the state or the city that the school's in, so you're able to look up that information. Now, if you have any problems finding the school code, again, similar to the high school, the name that's on the FAFSA website might be different, or the wording might be slightly different than what in different publications from the school. You can contact the financial aid office of the school if you had any questions about filling out the school code. Also, the site does only let you enter 10 of the 10 school codes. So in terms of UC Davis's process, if you've entered 10 school codes but then want to enter more at a later date, what I would suggest doing is, once you've completed the 10 schools, is confirming with one of those schools if they've already received your information. If they have, you can log back into the FAFSA, go ahead and remove that school code, and then add the additional school code for the other school that you're interested in having your FAFSA sent to. Okay, so school selection housing plan. So there are different housing plans, and that is something that you can enter if you're living on campus, off campus, or commuter. It's definitely not set in stone, but the school, you can contact your school and look into changing that if you have to. But it's very important that you indicate if you're living on campus or off campus, because that could affect the type of financial aid or the amount that you're being awarded. Each school has an estimated cost of attendance, which includes tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies, transportation, and personal costs. And the schools will use that to determine the type and amount of financial aid that you're eligible for. And also, you can't continue with the application until you enter a housing code. It's going to make you enter one in there. So, step 2's done. Now we're if you're under 24, if you're not married, if you're not a graduate student, if you don't have any children or people that you're supporting dependents, and you haven't served through each question. Were you born before January 1st of 1989? And if the answer is no, you would go ahead and enter a no, and then you would go through each question. If you're married as of the day you filed your FAFSA, if you're currently beginning the academic year for 12-13 in this case, if you'll be going for your master's, your doctorate degree, or any other basically graduate program level or above. If you answer no to that, you're considered a dependent student. And then there's questions about, do you have any children? Do you have any dependents? Are you actively serving in the military? So if you're in the reserve, that doesn't necessarily mean you're considered independent. And then also, if the armed forces, and there's questions about being emancipated minor, if you are an orphan, or if you're considered homeless. Now, if you have any questions about filling out each of these or responding to each of these, you can see on the right side of the presentation there are those helpful hints, and this is a good section where it really is helpful. It'll give you a description of, well, what does this mean? What do you mean by homeless? Or what do you mean by an emancipated minor? Also on this booth as well, there's the line-by-line completing your FAFSA, and that has some pretty good, if you wanted to find out a bit more information, well, what do they mean by this question of dependency? Okay. So moving on, there are those dependency questions, and if you are married, the FAFSA will request that you fill out information and include your spouse's information as well. It will ask about the number of family members in your house, and we'll go into that. There's a separate section on this in this webinar. And also if you are the number in college as well, coming up for the 12-13 school year. Okay, so depending on how you answer the dependency questions, it will pop up at the screen on your FAFSA, asking if you want to provide your parents' information or not. So you would go ahead and either select yes or no. If you're not able to provide your parent information for some reason and you answered no to all of the dependency questions, you would want to go ahead and select the second option on the screen. And this will bring up a lot of information. It does talk about a process called a special circumstance appeal, a special circumstance. For the special circumstance, it does state situations where you're not required to provide your parent information and when you are required to provide your parent information. If you won't be providing your parent information, you actually want to go ahead and contact the schools that you're interested in. And in the case of UC Davis, we have an independent appeal process where you can apply for your information to be considered solely without your parents' information. Now, this is a strict process, and it can vary from school to school. We do ask for documentation, and there's certain reasons why we couldn't just automatically make you independent per our regulations, such as your parents not claiming you on their tax returns, also parents unwilling to provide any sort of support. But if you're interested in that process for UC Davis, if you visit our website, financial aid website, so we have gone through 3 steps. Now we're on to step 4 for parent demographics. So if you're considered dependent for financial aid purposes, the FAFSA is going to ask information about your parents, similar to what it asked for you. So it's going to ask about your parents' marital status as of today, your parents' email address. Also, maybe just to backtrack a little bit, when you fill out the student demographic information, go ahead and enter your a valid email address. What will happen is once the FAFSA is completed within 2 to 3 days, you should, or even sooner than that, you should receive an email your student aid report, your SAR, that will give information on what you completed on the FAFSA. It's basically your confirmation. And you'll receive a confirmation when you've completed the FAFSA as well. So, but going back to the parent demographic section, your parent's state of legal residence, also household size, and roll number in college as well. So looking at parents' marital status, that you want to say if they're married or if they're remarried, you would go ahead and enter the information of the applicable parents. So if your parents are married, you want to go ahead and enter both your parents' information. If your parents are separated or divorced, you would enter the information of the parent that you lived with the majority for the past 12 months. Also, let's see. And if your parents are remarried, if your parent is remarried and that's the parent you're entering on the FAFSA, you want to go ahead and enter that parent's information. The FAFSA does require you enter that to calculate your eligibility for financial aid. Okay, so this has kind of similar information. You can go ahead and see someone's filled out Social Security number. If for some reason your parents don't have a Social Security number, then you can enter all 9s in the Social Security number section to allow you to continue to process the application. Okay, so going into what constitutes a household. If you're a dependent student, your household would include your parents, yourself, your parents' other children, if your parents provide more than half of their support, and then other people that live with you that your parents provide support as well. So there's the household size, and then there's the parent, the number in college. For the number in college, you do want to include yourself. However, you wouldn't include your parents. You can include your siblings in there as well if they're part of the household. Okay, so we are now at step 5, financial information. So this is where the tax returns come in, the IRS Data Retrieval tool. Okay, so for the parent tax information, if you're a dependent, it's going to ask you if you've completed your 2011 tax returns. If you haven't, that's fine. You would go ahead and select the drop-down menu and select Will File. And you can also use, as we talked about, estimates and information moving forward. Okay, so there's the IRS Data Retrieval tool. If you've already completed your FAFSA, you can request that information be pulled in directly, which is definitely speeds up the process. Beginning February 1st, if a parent's already selected that they completed taxes, you'll be presented with a series of questions that determine your eligibility to use the IRS Data Retrieval tool. If you have, let's see, you will have the option to enter a PIN number and you'll be given a link to the IRS. The IRS data should be available 1 to 2 weeks after filing electronically, and then available 6 to 8 weeks after you filed a paper tax return. So going forward, we're giving examples of different screenshots of what you'll be seeing if you use the IRS Data Retrieval. If you are actually leaving the FAFSA website and then linking to the IRS website. And this will bring up a screen where you can enter in your personal information, and you want to enter your information exactly as it appears on your tax returns. And then you'll be able to view the information in different fields that are going to be downloaded onto the FAFSA, and you want to go ahead and select to transfer that information. And the questions that are populated with text questions will automatically be answered for you. Okay, so using that IRS Data Retrieval tool in this example right here, answers have been automatically filled in, but you can manually answer the questions yourself. Your adjusted gross income, your salary, which you can get from your 2011 W-2. Then it will ask a series of questions which, depending on your answer, if you're receiving supplemental security income, food stamps, free or reduced price lunch, temporary assistance for needy families, also special supplemental nutritional program for women, infants, and children, WIC, or none of the above, and that will allow, play a role in calculating the final number that comes as a result of your FAFSA. So it will exclude certain information that you enter. Okay, so let's take a look at the next screen. What type of income tax return will you file? So there are different types of tax returns that you can file. There's the IRS 1040, the 1040A, and the 1040EZ, the adjusted gross income. And then you'll see on the right side of the page, it tells you which numbers, as you scroll down through and highlight the different fields, where you would find that information on the tax returns. Okay, so going through, so today either of your parents a dislocated worker. If you wanted the definition of that, you would highlight that, and on the right side it will have your help and hints there. And as we just talked about breaking down the different programs that are offered, or if you fall under that, that will allow the FAFSA to adjust for its calculation. Okay, so we have the next section here, more financial information for parents for dependents, the amount of your, example here, the amount of your father's income tax for 2011 and any exemptions. So that would be numbers that you would pull from your tax returns. If the numbers are drastically different from the prior year, you can use your prior year tax returns to help fill out that information. And also there's two sections that I'm just going to go over right here, the additional financial information section and untaxed income. So I'm just going to go through each one, kind of give you a general description. For additional financial information, if you're receiving any certain, let's see, any education credits, you would enter the total amount of your American Opportunity, Hope, or Learning Lifetime credits. These are different things that, some of the answers to these questions you can pull directly from your tax returns. And on the right side of the screen under the help and hints, again, it will go ahead and refer you to which line on the tax returns you would access that information. There's child support payments that were made during the 2011 calendar year. Taxable earnings from need-based employment programs. If your parents, in this case this is the parent section, received any work-study funding, if they're a student, and any fellowships or assistantships, any amounts that were earned there, you would go ahead and select the box and fill out that information. If any grants or scholarships above the cost of attendance were claimed on tax returns, you would enter that under the Student Grants and Other Awards section. Combat pay or special combat pay, this is a number that's pulled from your parents, in this case for the parent information under the W-2s, and that's in box 12. There's a code Q. You want to go ahead and click on that box and enter that information. And then earnings from work under a cooperative education program would be entered under the final box for the additional financial information. And then there's untaxed income that is included in the calculation, payments to tax-deferred pension and savings plans. You would pull this information from your W-2s for the year. So for 2011 W-2, you would go to box 12, and if there's a code D, E, F, G, H, or S, you would have to include that amount on, you would click the box for payments to tax-deferred pension, click the box, and then enter that amount on the FAFSA. IRA or other plans, these are amounts of IRA deductions and payments to self-employed, simplified employee pensions. This information you can pull straight from your tax returns. And then if you hover over that question on the right, it will tell you exactly. So for the IRS 1040, that's going to be the totals of lines 28 and 32. So you definitely don't have to remember this from when I'm talking right now, but it will appear on the right side as to where you would find that information. Then there's child support received during 2011 and tax-exempt interest income, which is also information you can get from the tax returns. And there, in addition to the untaxed portion of IRA distributions and untaxed portion of pensions, that's pulled from line 15A minus 15B on the 1040s, and then the untaxed pension is line 16A minus 16B. So you want to look at the right side of the help and hints, and that will tell you exactly where to pull that information from. Also, there's housing, food, and other living allowances, veterans non-education benefits, and other untaxed income and benefits. So there's definitely a lot of questions that it does ask, but what's nice is on that right side, again, it will tell you exactly what that includes. Also on the line by line completing your FAFSA, you can look up the question number and it will tell you exactly what you need to include there. Okay, so let's move on to the next screen. As of today, in this example, the FAFSA is asking, does the total amount of your parents' current assets exceed, and then they'll list an amount. So depending on how you answer that question, there is a threshold that will let you skip the asset section depending if you fall within the threshold. I recommend still entering the information, especially if you're a California resident and you want to be considered for the Cal Grant. So we'll ask, and this is where the bank statements and any investment statements come into play. As of today, as of the date you filed your FAFSA, what's your total current balance of cash savings and checking accounts? As of today, what's the net worth of your parents' investments, including real estate, but not your parents' home? That's something that you want to keep in mind. Your primary residence isn't included in the calculation for financial aid eligibility. But if they owned a separate property, the net value and you would include that information as of today, the value in the asset calculation. Okay, so investments do include real estate other than your parents' home, any trust funds, can be listed under the investments as an asset. So how do you calculate the net worth? The net worth of the property would be the current market value and then minus debt. So for example, for a rental property, if you have the current market value and then subtract the amount that's owed on the mortgage, that would be the amount that you would list under the current net value. So just as a reminder again, you want to make sure you don't include your parents' home. That's definitely something that's that comes up when people fill out the FAFSA, accidentally including that information. You don't want to include any life insurance, and then qualified retirement plans. Those are things that you don't want to include under the assets. And then for the current business and investment farm, you don't want to include a family farm. And if the business has 100 or fewer employees or full-time equivalent employees, then you don't need to include a value on the asset value. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So if your parents have a business but less than 100 times full employees, the answer would be 0 for that asset section. Okay, so similar to what we did for parents, we want to go ahead and enter the student information as well. So we'll ask about filing taxes, if you are required to file taxes, if you're going to be planning on filing taxes. Similar, you can use estimates as well. Now, something that you want to keep in mind is for the student section, it's okay if you didn't file taxes, but you want to just confirm with the IRS if based on any amounts made in 2011, if you are required to file tax returns. Depending on the amount that you made, you can check that with your W-2. If you are not sure if you have to file taxes, I would recommend visiting the IRS website or giving them a call. There's a link to the IRS website on our booth here as well. Okay, so again, similar to with the parents, we strongly suggest using the IRS tax data, using the tool to retrieve your tax information from the IRS website. If you haven't already done so, you can definitely fill out the FAFSA. You're not required to use that tool, but we do strongly recommend that you go back in once you filed your taxes and then update your FAFSA using the tax data retrieval tool. Okay, so similar with the parents, it will ask information about the tax returns, what type of tax returns you're filing. If you're filing, it will skip certain sections if you're not required to file taxes. So if you indicate that you're not filing taxes, it will still ask for your income information because it's possible to make wages but not be required to file taxes. So if you did file taxes, if you did make wages in 2011, you want to have that information available when you fill out the FAFSA. And again, we'll ask similar questions that I'd ask for dependents for parents. We'll ask the amount of income made, so getting that information from a W-2, and then number of exemptions if you did file taxes. Something to keep in mind is that 2 people can't claim the same person on their tax returns. So if you're filing your tax returns and your parents are filing tax returns, either your parents or yourself can claim you on your tax returns. And if you have any questions about IRS and filing taxes, again, I would refer to the IRS on those. We'll also ask for additional financial information and also the untaxed income as well. So similar to the parents, it will ask students for that information as well, and then for assets as well. So you want to go ahead and complete that information. Okay, so step 5, big part, moving into step 6. You want to sign and submit your information. Okay, so you've already completed everything. You can save things as you go along. There's an option at the bottom of the screen. So now we'll get to actually electronically signing your FAFSA, and that's where your PIN number comes in. So there'll be 2 sections. If you're a dependent, there'll be the student section at top and then the parent section at the bottom. It should autofill with your social security number, your name, and then your date of birth. And then it will ask you if you want to sign electronically with your PIN number. So you would go ahead and select the option if you want to move forward with that, to sign electronically with your PIN number. There is that disclaimer statement, so you want to go ahead and read through that, and then moving forward with the application, you would go ahead and select that you agree. Now you can still submit the FAFSA even if you don't have your PIN number. There is the option to click submit without your signature. However, your FAFSA won't be considered complete until it does have your signature on there, either an electronic, the 4-digit PIN number, or you do have the option of printing up the form, signing it, and then mailing it in. Definitely the quickest way is having that PIN number. So if you're able to enter a PIN, you can do that. Otherwise, you do have that option of mailing in the signature page. So similar to the parent student, there's the parent section, and how do you want to submit? You can sign electronically with your PIN number. It also, if you haven't created a PIN number or personal identification number at that point, you can click apply for a PIN, and that will bring you back to the PIN website. Also, you can print the signature page, similar with the student, and you can submit without a signature. However, again, in order for it to be considered official, you do need to log on and submit with your PIN number, or submit or mail in with a signature. Also, for the parents as well, similar with the student, you want to go ahead and read through the conditions that you're agreeing to in order to submit your information, and then release some privacy statements. And then once you've completed that, you would go ahead and click Submit My FAFSA Now. Which brings us to step 7, the confirmation. Okay, so once you've completed the FAFSA, it will bring up a confirmation page. So looking at the confirmation page, in the top right corner, you'll have your confirmation number. You want to go ahead and write that down, print, do a screenshot. The information will be emailed to you if you entered your email address. However, it doesn't hurt to write that down just as a handy reference. When you continue down the screen, on the left-hand side, there will be a number, your expected family contribution. So based on the number in household, number in college, your income, your parents' income if you're a dependent, untaxed income, based on all the information that you entered, it generates a number called the expected family contribution, your EFC. And that's the number that's sent to your school to help generate and determine the type of money that you're eligible for. So looking at the screenshot right here on the right side of the screen, based on an expected family contribution, it will offer information about different types of federal aid programs. For example, for a Pell Grant, a student can receive for a year, the maximum is $5,500, and then an information about direct loans, subsidized and unsubsidized. Depending on your grade level, you could be eligible for certain loan money. Also on the form, if there's any information that's missing, the screen will prompt you as to what this information is, so you'll be able to actually log back in to your FAFSA and then submit that information. Also lists are different information about your colleges, the different college retention rates, the different schools that you're applying for. So some general information about your schools that you're interested in. So within 2 to 3 days, you should receive an email if you entered your email address, just confirming that your application has been processed and will be made available to the schools that you listed on your FAFSA. It will give you a link to your student aid report, your SAR, where you can view your answers to each question that you answered on your FAFSA. And also, let's see. So that's really the overall process for filing your FAFSA. If you used estimates, you do want to log back in to your FAFSA once the taxes are available, and update using the IRS Data Retrieval tool or using your actual 2011 tax returns. So what's going to happen from this point? You've completed your FAFSA, you've received your confirmation, everything's submitted. So what will happen now is the schools will receive your information, and each school has their own different estimated cost of attendance, and based on that information, once you're admitted into the program, it'll generate a financial aid package for you. Now, maybe on paper, it may be online. If you're a UC Davis student and you're admitted and you have a complete FAFSA on file, we're scheduled to send out or to release the financial aid packages and notifications for the upcoming school year around mid-March, which is when the official admission notices are scheduled to go out. And then from there, you can look at your financial aid package, see the different aid that you're eligible for, and if you have questions about your aid package, you would go ahead and contact the school and ask your questions and look into different information about additional aid options or any other questions that you might have. So at this point, if you do have any questions, definitely feel free to contact the financial aid office. It's definitely with questions about income and assets. We are here to help. So if you want to give us a call, we are open Monday through Friday. Our phone lines are open 9 through 4 p.m. and our front desk is open from 10 to 2 p.m. And you can reach our office at 530-752-2390. Also, if you have questions about the technical aspects of filling out the FAFSA, if you're having problems with the website, problems in generating a PIN number or accessing your PIN number, you want to go ahead and contact Federal Student Aid Information Center. And that can be reached at 1-800-4-FED-AID, which is 1-800-433-3243. We also have our contact information on our website as well under the Financial Aid Office. It's state and federal agencies. Something else, as a California resident, if you want to be considered for the Cal Grant, there is the Cal Grant GPA verification form. Now, the Cal Grant GPA verification form, there's information about that on the CSAC website, the California Student Aid Commission website, and we do have the link here on our booth. So if you wanted to click on that, it gives information on applying for the GPA verification. Now, the GPA verification is due by March 2nd for first-time applicants. So you want to make sure you file your FAFSA by March 2nd. And the GPA submission is also due by March 2nd as well. If you're currently a UC Davis student and you're a continuing student and you've completed at least 36 units as of the end of the fall quarter, UC Davis will submit your GPA to CSAC if you're a first-time applicant. However, if you don't have at least 36 units on record as of the end of the fall quarter, you will actually want to go to a prior institution. So if you're in high school, you would go to your high school, or if you're a transfer student, you want to go ahead and go to your prior school, and then from there they can send off your GPA. Now, if you're coming in as a first-time prospective student, or is a prospective student watching this right now and you're coming in as a new student, then most schools now do electronically send off your GPA. But if you have any questions about that, all you do want to contact, maybe speak with your high school counselor, or you want to contact the counseling office or the main administrative office at your high school. So that's pretty much it for me. I hope this information was useful to you. Again, I would refer, if you had any questions about filling out specific questions, that line by line completing your FAFSA is definitely useful. However, we are here to help answer your questions. In terms of, as I mentioned, going into the fall quarter, aid packages for entering students are scheduled to become available for completed FAFSAs as around the middle of March. Also, if you're an entering student and you experienced a loss of income between the current and prior calendar years, we do have a process called a special circumstance appeal, which allows us to possibly adjust the data elements, the different numbers on your FAFSA, to possibly allow for additional aid eligibility. Now, this process doesn't actually begin for students until mid-September, and it's reviewed during October. But as a prospective student, you're at the point where you're comparing different aid packages. So what you can do is, once you're admitted and you've viewed your financial aid package, you can submit a letter to our office with general information about the loss of income between the current and prior calendar years. And then based on that information, financial aid officers can look through and see what the possible results of what changes could possibly result to your aid package if you do decide to submit a special circumstance appeal when the form becomes available mid-September. We are required to look at the majority of the year's income, which is one reason that we do look at this process later in that calendar year. So examples of a special circumstance appeal would be a loss of income, a loss of a job, and other losses of income, a one-time payment. But if you wanted more information on this process, I would definitely check out our website. If you go to financialaid.ucdavis.edu and then you select undergraduate, if you select students, and then special programs. We do list several special programs, and one of them is a special circumstance appeal. So that is a process that is offered by UC Davis. And you can also check out our website and look at different other programs that we offer as well. If you have questions about the different types of financial aid, you can look at the types of aid section. So we definitely have a lot of information out there and tools that are available to help review your financial aid package and to help look at that information. So I'm going to go ahead and end the presentation right now. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you found this information useful. starting at 2 o'clock. If you're already in the chat room, I'll go ahead and continue to hang around, and within the next 5 minutes, our financial aid staff will be in our chat room ready to answer all of your questions. So again, thank you for your time, and I hope you consider